Here, a choir of birds singing in your ear. It was cute at first, but now it's just the worst. Wrap it up, guys. When your morning is hell, just go to Taco Bell.
When you've had a morning, let us make you breakfast, like Taco Bell's Breakfast Crunch Wrap. A whole breakfast wrapped up and grilled to eat on the go. At participating stores for a limited time during breakfast hours.
Parker Brothers Roofing says don't play games with your roof. Protect your home and your family. The Parker Brothers tell you the truth. We'll fix your roof, cause it's what we do. With quality, integrity, and pride. Parker Brothers Roofing, professional every time. Stay safe and dry inside.
Customers constantly tell us that they're getting several estimates to compare apples to apples. You ever bite into an apple and find out the inside is rotten? Cheap roofing quotes are just like that rotten apple. Quote looks shiny and delicious because it's the cheapest, right? But you wind up with that rotten apple that leaks or starts to fail immediately. All roofing quotes are not equal. Cheap estimates equal cheap materials, subpar labor, or both. For quality that lasts, call us at 656-8112.
Parker Brothers Roofing, professional every time. Stay safe and dry inside.
License number CCC 049350.
Broadcasting live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios. This is 97.9 ESPN Radio, WTSM, Woodville, Thomasville, Tallahassee.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm Doug Brown. The Cubs put left-hander John Lester on the DL today with shoulder fatigue and a tight lat muscle. Lester is only 8-7 this year. He gave up 9 runs to the Reds on Thursday in less than 2 innings. Derek Jeter is hoping to become one of the new owners of the Marlins, but in the meantime, he and his wife Hannah are celebrating the birth of their first child, daughter Bella, on Thursday. One of the owners of the Nationals, Mark Lerner, tells the Washington Post he is now cancer-free, but after complications from surgery and treatment, his left leg was amputated. Lerner has been away from Nationals Park for several months. ESPN's Diana Rossini reports Panthers quarterback Cam Newton won't play in tomorrow's preseason game against the Titans. He's still recovering from shoulder surgery. And the Jaguars' starting quarterback job is now up for grabs. Blake Bortles has been the starter since his rookie year in 2014, but after last night's preseason loss to the Buccaneers, Chad Henne will now share first-team reps with Bortles.
Brought to you by JCPenney. Guys, get to JCPenney today for Levi's lowest prices of the season. Find select styles like Levi's 514 Straight Fit for $39.99 and 511 Slim Fit for $41.99. Deals like this won't last long. That's getting your penny's worth. JCPenney.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio. It's Libations Friday, brought to you by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill on Appalachian Parkway. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Final hour of the Jeff Cameron Show, at least for this week. Thanks for tuning to it, and a fine Libations Friday to you and yours. I'm Jeff, that's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free. Always, don't miss anything, but hey, people miss things. And when you do, go back, find it, get caught up at your leisure. We'll post it upon the conclusion of the program, both on iTunes and in our own audio vault. You can email the program if you like. It's jcs@979. ESPNradio.com. You find me on Twitter. It's at @JCameron Show. WTSM app for your mobile devices, and we're on YouTube. Type in ESPN Tallahassee for the YouTube feed. This hour, and we're sprinkling these in now. Cool opportunity earlier this week just to do a camp tour with SiriusXM. But moreover, I want that audio for you to be able to hear it. Not everybody has a satellite account. That's good. Good. Yeah, you don't need one. But the point would be that, you might find an interview with Jimbo Fisher interesting. I was a co-host with Andy Staples on this. We'll play it later in the hour, where Jimbo was very talkative, and we were able to sit down with him and talk for a little over 20 minutes. So coming up here after this segment, we'll play that for you. And we'll also post, along with the show, maybe the other interviews, some of which we're not using today. Because there's some stuff in there. You know, one thing, Tom, we get asked all the time about why we don't do more player interviews. And I'm just going to say it, man, player interviews are usually not very good. You know, I'm not trying to knock, but they're kids, and they haven't all had great media training. A lot of them have, they're nervous. They just get so nervous, and I can sense it when we're over there talking. It was a reminder this week, sitting there talking. John Fitzpatrick is a real smart guy, as you've pointed out before. But when you hear his interview, there's a lot of filler, a lot of verbal crutches that you have when you get nervous. We all do to some extent, and sometimes it's just overwhelming. There's a job to be had over there and at universities and with different organizations in the NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball, whatever, with anybody, just sitting the guys down and teaching them how to pause in between thoughts. And I think they're so fearful of silence is really where that comes from. And so they fill it with, or you know what I'm saying?
That's a lesson for broadcasting students,
Without question.
Not just athletes.
Without question.
And the thing is, doing beat reporting for a few years, for print, that's fine. For print, you need the player interviews. You need those stories.
Without question.
But for broadcast purposes, there's a different demand there.
Right, and radio and television can be unforgiving. You hear a guy talk and get nervous and spiral towards this verbal crutch that we're talking about, especially if it's the same one. Remember when Greg Jones first got here, those interviews were difficult. There were a lot of know what I'm sayings and things like that, which has been a popular fallback for people, across the board. It's not just players.
The one that drove me nuts was Christian Ponder because he sounded like he was gear shifting. And this is, again, anything. You do the student radio station when I was at Florida State
Sure.
or even here, or even when I listen back to stuff, I'm like, man, why am I saying in terms of every day? Like 5 times every day I'm saying in terms of. Can you just say, that's complete filler nonsense. But Ponder used to go, and
I didn't notice that, did he?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
So just like the revving of a car?
Yeah, you're shifting, yeah.
Well,
he and Andrew Luck have that same kind of heavy voice, too. Like,
well, and the weird thing about Ponder and Luck, for that matter, both really bright guys, and if you were walking past those two in a conversation and heard just that sound, the tone of their voice, you'd think, dumbasses. You just would. I mean, that's cruel, but you would.
Yeah, when Gruden had Luck on, and he's like, "What are you majoring?" He's like, "Chemical engineering," and then he's like, "What? Tell me about something." It might not have been chemical engineering,
but it was
something highbrow.
Oh, it was crazy, yeah.
And so he's telling him formulas and stuff, and Gruden's like, "That's amazing. That's incredible."
But to hear it come out of his mouth, you thought, "How is that
Right.
dumbass?" Yeah, which he is certainly not. Neither is Christian Ponder. Yeah, sure. Anyhow, the point is on this show, a lot of times player interviews, become just cliche. Players are also afraid to say what they're really thinking a lot of times for fear they're going to say something that their coach gets angry about or they reveal something they shouldn't. To answer the question, we don't do a lot of player interviews. In part, it's personal for me in that I hate them. I hate doing player interviews because most of the time you'll get a nugget for 10 minutes. You do a 10-minute interview, might get a minute and a half that's halfway decent, and that's just not worth it.
Then you play the soundbite. It's worth a soundbite, but it's not worth a full interview, Q&A, back and forth.
So that's not a good way of setting up the fact that we're going to play some interview clips for you.
Or have some online, yeah.
Or have some online.
Well, damn
yeah.
it, man. Even the head coach, can.
Sure, absolutely. So I did this thing with Andy Staples from Sports Illustrated, and we went over there, and Florida State did a good job of getting it set up so that we could have players come in one by one. And we spoke with Alec Eberle, which you heard earlier in the show in the 3 o'clock hour. And then you had, obviously Derwin James was hilarious. And then I think, Jimbo you want to hear from, and Stan Wilcox and all that. So it's fun stuff. It was also insightful, I think, Tom, in that you get a sense that more than anything, across the board, whether it's a specific interview or all of them grouped, just how locked in, at least at this point in camp, they really are. That, to me, because we don't normally get that. You get coach after practice, little sound bites here and there is what you get. But you don't often get, and this is what it afforded me, was the opportunity to check in with players and the head coach and the athletic director halfway through camp, just to see where their heads are at. And school hasn't started, so they're just ultra-focused. They're right in there every day, all things football, consumed by it, and focused on getting better, and focused on the little things, which I would imagine, you got to be meticulous in the details, especially if physically you're doing all the things you're supposed to do. I thought that came across in talking to those players and just how eager they are to get started. After a while, you do get to that part in camp where you're ready to be done. You're ready to hit somebody other than your teammate. You're ready to see where you're at. I mean, I think that's the thing. Every day you can practice and you can listen to your coaches. And it gets repetitive, but you don't really know where you're at till you get on the field.
Yeah, I'm tired of listening to us, talking in circles about the same talking points because, we can't see practice every day. And it feels like Monday should be Monday of game week, but it's not. We have one more full week before we get to a game week. Now, there are actual college football games being played next week.
I was going to say,
which is nice.
That's a saving grace. I mean, next week we get the Listener Appreciation Party, Libations Friday Fest, which will be a lot of fun at Corner Pocket Bar and Grill on the 25th, and hopefully all you guys will come out so we get that 1 week from today, which is a lot of fun. We'll have actual college football games to be previewing and talking. I don't know if we'll be previewing some of those games, but we'll be talking about them.
Yeah, week 3 of the preseason, which is the closest thing to the NFL without it actually being full-speed NFL action, which is nice.
Speaking of which, that game last night revealed a couple of things, and that is that Tampa Bay's first-team offense is, starting to be a little bit more potent as they have weapons that are being added. I think that's a fun team to watch. Tampa Bay is going to be a pretty good football team. They got a chance to maybe be very good. We'll see. Can't tell through 2 preseason games. And the other thing I think you realize if you're a Jacksonville fan, you suck. Your team sucks. You're god-awful. You have no quarterback. You're an aimless team with a franchise that's in complete disarray, and you're going to lose 10 games again this year and draft in the top 10 like you do every year for the last 10 years.
I think Henny's your quarterback, and you'd feel a little bit better if either of your receivers, who will catch passes in the regular season,
maybe
drop wide open. I mean, those are good receivers. But it hurts to be a Jacksonville fan right now. Yeah, I think so. However, you could draw up and lie to yourself or maybe tell a little bit of truth. If Henny's the quarterback and you have to, at least as a defense, honor his arm. Because Bortles had a couple of people broken wide open and he
can't hit him.
Yeah.
By the way, he's terrible.
You have to at least honor Henny's arm. Yes, he is. And then Fournette's in the game and you're running him 25, 30 times. You might have a formula to eke
to win
out.
8 games?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. You really do have to hope.
And with Tampa, Doug Martin's your best running back. Again, he looks young again.
By far. Yeah, well, I don't like any of the other running backs, and I don't love Doug. The question with
they're
Doug,
not run blocking all that great, and he makes adjustments behind the line and creates his own.
Yeah, he's the most talented by far. But the problem with Doug Martin is never how he runs at the beginning of a season. It's how he runs at the end of a season because he's not a big guy.
I got good news for you. He's going to miss 3 out of the 16 games.
And I actually think if you can survive those first 3 games without him and win, say, 2 of them, then great. He'll stay fresh. Doug is fine in August and September. It's where are you late October, Doug? I need you to be the same guy. And it's not his fault. He's just not a big dude. He's and to take the pounding, but he's by far our best back. He's just he's inconsistent.
I think the film is such that though you can't cut him now. You got to keep him. He's too good.
Well, you definitely have to keep him in that you didn't go out and get anybody else who could play. So what are you going to do if you cut him? Rely on Sims and the rest of those bums? So
the quiz, man.
He's not very good either.
Oh my God.
He's better. No, he's better than Sims, but it's not hard to be. What happens when he comes in the game? Sims is so bad that when you see Rodgers, you're like, well, that's the other guy. Well, that's just because we're comparing him to that other bum. It's not because he's good. That is the area of concern. Hey, you know what? Marpet's a natural center. He looks good. That's a big damn deal. Sweezy stoning people out there last night for a couple of drives. So I don't know that I can rely on him to play a full season given that he missed a full year, but that's an upgrade. Marpet at center looks really good. I'm happy to see that.
Smith came out at right tackle, and Benedict comes in.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to see that starting five for as long as possible. I mean, that's the NFL anyway. You only can carry 6 or 7 offensive linemen with the way rosters are, which I think is a little ridiculous because attrition at that position is going to come given the speed of the game and the size of defensive linemen. But, yeah, in theory, that offensive line does look like it's going to hold up nicely because Jacksonville does have a good defensive line.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, when Jameis needed some time to throw the football, they were there. The weapons with Howard and obviously Brate is a serviceable tight end, so you can count on him for all those check downs, and Humphreys is serviceable in that way, but you got the speed now with Deshaun, and Evans has always been good, and I do need him to catch a perfectly thrown pass. I'm going to need you to catch that.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Mike, that's there. You know, that's an area of weakness for Jameis, and then he throws it, puts it on you deep. Can't have all that. That was unsettling. But the number one thing that could have come out of last night's game, besides despair for Jacksonville fans, of which there is a mountain, is that asinine throw from Jameis trying to force something and making a play that is absolutely ludicrous and can't happen. Better that it happened in preseason. Better you put that on film and get screamed down and have to look inside yourself and realize I got to stop doing that nonsense in the preseason than in the regular season. And if that's the one thing that comes out of the game last night, well, then it was all worth it that he made that throw because that's the thing that's going to separate him from ever taking that next step into the upper elite category where I think he has the potential to go. Jimbo Fisher interview coming up next. Stay tuned. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough, I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
And Grill will have prizes, giveaways, including a commemorative shirt, courtesy of our friends at Full Press Apparel. Again, that's Friday, August the 25th at 6 o'clock. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, the 6th annual Listener Appreciation Party, also known as Libations Friday Fest. We'll see you there.
Get your weekend started right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Saturdays at 6 a.m. with Fishing Florida Radio. Listen to the three amigos, Boudreaux, Steve Chapman, and Captain Mike Ortega as they catch you up to speed on what's new and biting in the North Florida region. Big-time guests, celebrities, interviews, and 3 hours of the fishing info you need. Fishing Florida Radio is brought to you by Sea Quarters Marina off Highway 98 in Carabel. Sea Quarters Marina, your full-service marina, and presented by Hobbit American Grill, locally owned and operated since 1978.
Announcing the Office Depot Office Max 1 cent event, going on now in stores only. Check your purse or pockets, your car's cup holder, because a penny has never been more valuable. Notebooks, 1 cent. Rulers, glue, and 12-pack pencils, 1 cent each. Hurry to the 1 cent event, only at Office Depot Office Max.
Taking care of business.
In store only. Limit 3 each while supplies last. Offer with minimum $5 purchase before tax. Ends 8/19.
This is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
So if you pay attention during the regular season, you know that music is an indicator Jimbo Fisher talk or interview is coming up. And it is a little bit different this time around. We're going to play the Jimbo Fisher interview I did on Wednesday. I did this interview with Andy Staples, so you'll hear another voice in the interview. You might wonder who that is. That's who it is from Sports Illustrated. We did that as part of a camp tour for SiriusXM on College Sports Nation, but we're using that audio as we have throughout the day so that you guys can listen in on this and go back and find it if you missed anything again on our website, because a lot of you wanted a link, ESPNTallahassee.com. You can find it there. You'll find it all on iTunes too. So we'll post it all. But I began by asking Jimbo Fisher, a game like Alabama affect preparation or changes the way that you go into a season or alters practice? And Jimbo Fisher had this to say, and then the interview proceeds from there.
I think playing Ole Miss, Pitt, and Oklahoma State in the past has really helped us understand the preparation. But, of course, Alabama's ranked number 1. We're ranked whatever 2 or 3. So it does bring urgency. I think it brings focus. And I think, in the summer, when you're a player and you're pushing yourself, I'm doing my workout, but am I going to do extra? Am I going to do some extra film time? And I think it brings that about.
So last season was one of those where about the midpoint, things could have gone in a really bad direction. Mm-hmm. But you guys got it back together, finished strong. How important was that going into this year to have, learned those lessons and finish the right way?
You know what I think people will be shocked at? Even the great years you've had, how close that is to happening. People don't realize that how many games, it doesn't matter if you're winning or losing, it's always that way. It's really no different for us. But it is from a perception because maybe you've lost that game, or instead of winning it. Whether we won North Carolina or lost North Carolina, we were still the same team. You know what I mean? And you still have problems. You have warts, and we know a lot of them a lot more than y'all do. But at the same time, it is, I think, characteristic of the culture in which we've created here and the trust in which they have in the coaches and what we have to change. And changing is very hard. People say it's easy to change. No, it's not. Once you create habits, we're what we do daily. We can all pretend to be something else, but what we do daily. And for them to change their habits and understand what we're trying to do, I think it was very big, and it was very, to me, indicative of the kind of kids we have.
If you have a sense that something like that's possible with a team where a team is maybe not where you need them to be yet, and then it happens, it plays out like it did against Louisville, what do you do to turn it around? What did you say?
Nothing. Be honest. There's nothing to be true. Put it on there. You own it. Look at the film. What are you going to do to change it? There is no magical word. There is no magical formula. It's honesty and trust. At the end of the day, if he doesn't trust, the players don't trust me to be able to say, you know what he's saying is right, I do have to change. Or we're pointing out to them, we trust them, and that we trust that they'll do what we ask them to do, it doesn't work. There's no magical potion. It's honesty, hard work. This is the problems. You got to own it. Now fix it.
Jeff and I were talking off the air about the dynamics of your program as it's gone forward. Last year was kind of the first year that you had almost an entire roster of guys who didn't have to go through the struggle to get back to the top. How is that different than, say, when you bring in a Telvin Smith and a LaMarcus Joyner and they do have to go through that and build to it?
It's like life. I mean, when you've came from nothing and you make it, you understand that every day is a fight and struggle. Or when you've been given things at an early age, it doesn't make anyone better or anyone worse. But I think there's a grind and a work ethic where you haven't ever experienced failure that sometimes you don't realize how close it really is. It lives with you daily and what you can do. And I think you have to educate. And I think also we show them film. We went back through the history of our program. This is what it was. This is what it looked like. This is what the facilities look like. This is what this is. This wasn't automatically here. And showed them the struggles of a 10-year deal where we only won 10 games, one time in 10 years or something like that, once or twice. Went back and showed them history of all that. Listen, this wasn't achieved. And even before we talk about the great run of 87 to 2001. Well, what about all the run before that? Go back and show them the history and how close. And then you show them teams that, okay, they've been up. Like Alabama was up for years. They went 20-some years before they ever got back. Florida, up and down, never won a championship, never won an SEC title till Spurrier got there.
Right.
I mean, you educate about things. People, because one thing I found about this generation, it does not research and do history. As much as we have Google at our fingertips, as much as we have all this social media and all the access to history, kids today do not pay attention to the history of games and things. I'll be honest, when I had Marcus Allen speak the other day to our team, I said, who knows Marcus Allen? Half our team.
Wow.
The other half never heard of him.
Wow.
I mean, you think about it, and I joke about this generation. Guys, it's different. Yeah. It's not because there's so back then. What was there to do?
Play games, read the newspaper.
Yeah, and you talk about we talk about sleep apnea, kids doing stuff at night. Well, at 12:30, the TV went. Psst, it was fuzz. There were no shows.
Yeah, you got the national anthem, and it was fuzz. Yeah.
No cell phone to call nobody.
Yep.
There was no game to play, because you had one phone in the house. So you went to bed. I mean, you think about what they have and the access to all the different things that go on in the world. Kids don't. So, all right, balls. Who's that guy? And you hear him talking. So you'd research it. You'd read about it. Even if we have more, we have so much more to do. These kids don't research the history of the game.
Well, and you don't have to take ownership of information because you can just look at the phone, see the fact, regurgitate, but never memorize it. You don't have to own anything.
Well, it's like owning. It's like I told them social media. We had a big thing on social media today. I think it's a joke, and here's why. Anytime somebody, and I'll say I'll use War Chant for an example. I know what's great. But when you can put a username on there, not your own name, and put no face to it, then don't ever talk to me. Because that's a joke. If you can put your own face and your own name, then maybe we'll listen to it. Other than that, you have no. Why do we do that? We create the problems. If you put every player has a Twitter, you know exactly whose player account it is. They're more accountable than fans and grown-ups.
How do you help kids who are in this era? I mean, this is a different era as you just got done describing, but you're in a place of leadership, of mentorship, almost like an extra father, if you will. How do you help them through it?
Educate. We had it last night. Anybody who says something without their name and face on it, why you would ever put any weight on it, it's a joke. Well, make them put their name on it, and I tell them, everything you send, you can never take back. I mean, everything you send, if you use it for the right thing, social media is great and it's dangerous. And there ought to be a warning tag on it. I mean, it's as dangerous as it is, and you have to educate, show them, and that love that people have for you is conditional based on how you play.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. In a place like this where the expectations are so high, it's
anywhere.
How do you get your players to understand that they need to play to their own standard and not somebody else's?
Well, you educate, and you show what our standard is, and you make them live up to it. And then sometimes they have to get bit. Like I say, them same fans were cheering for them in Michigan when the same ones ripping them after Carolina and after Louisville. And you got to educate. And it's nothing about – that's a fan. That's his right. That's nothing against the fan. But you got to understand, and you can love them. And the kids are different. The little kids are different. But fans themselves, you got to understand their love for you is conditional based on what you do and how you do it. And it's just like talk show radio. We can all be buddies. If I coach bad, you're going to rip me. You don't agree with me, you're going to rip me. So the relationships in that area, you got to be very careful with because that's just the world we live in.
So when you get them through last season, you end on such a high note. What is your message to them as they go through this offseason, and prepare for something that, maybe they're a little more ready this year than they were last year for?
Remember why you have success. See, we all talk about why we have failure, we want to fix it. What we don't talk about enough, why you have success. I ask a kid a lot of time, well, how'd you play so well? I just played. I felt good, Coach. No, maybe it's that you got 6 more hours sleep this week. Maybe it's you studied 2.5 hours more film. Maybe that your practices, you were focused from A to Z. You practiced, you knew what you were doing, you studied your assignments, you did that. And get them to repeat. Because what is athletics? It's not that anybody can do things once. Repeating it over and over and over and doing it to most high-pressure situations. That's what it turns into. And you got to condition yourself to do that. And you say, all right, learn. Why did you win? Here's what you did. Here's what you did when you lost. Your choice. Own it.
I think it's interesting. Sorry, Andy. I think it's interesting, Coach, at the end of last year and then coming into this year when we talked, you were careful to say, listen, I know I got a lot of returning talent, but there's 20 new guys going to walk through that door or thereabouts, and they can impact a team too. And so far, after these practices in camp, you've really had a lot of high praise for the youth that you've brought in, even with all the experience coming back. I guess talk a little bit about as camp started, the influx of that talent and how they're pressuring the older guys to stay on their toes and play well, or they can be replaced.
They are, and I think the older guys are the reason why. I think they set the culture, and they helped, and they've educated, and they've coached, and they've kind of nurtured those guys into what to do instead of leaving them hang out there, which teams can do. The older guys can get, but they understand now, if I don't have a certain number of freshmen play, we're not going to win a championship. That's just the nature of the beast now because guys are in and out. That's why facilities and new things you got to have. If you got to produce guys in 3 years. You got to think of it in a 3-year window. If you get 4, you're lucky. And you can't worry about that. So I think they understand that now. And I think they're nurturing and coaching and the time they spent with them, making them feel comfortable. And then I think you have some really good athletes. But I think also there's a lot of character, and I think there's a lot of intelligence in this class, which I think is very critical.
So when you have the young guys who flash quickly and then you expect them to become leaders. Brian Burns is a prime example. He walked in here and had a great freshman year. What is the key to him making the next step now?
Being hungry and understanding there's still good enough is never good enough. That you got to continue to grow in your game, strength, run game, pass game, coverage, rush, and learning new techniques and learning, all right, this is what I did last year. I need a counter move to this. I need this. I need that. And knowledge of the game and studying the game. And to me, it's self-motivation and hunger. Am I going to allow good to get in the way of great? Am I going to make possible probable? Am I going to own everything I do and be a dominant player? I mean, it's a self-motivation thing that you got to set those goals and you got to push with guys behind. But at the end of the day, they got to own what they want to be.
How much respect did DeAndre earn last year by taking the hits he took and just getting up and continuing to play?
Oh, he did from his teammates.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this: what quarterback here has never done that?
That's all the ones you've had have.
I'm gonna tell you this:
Yeah.
Christian Ponder. You got to remember, he broke 2 ribs and played 8 games. Never missed a practice and never missed a game with 2 broken ribs. Played quarterback with 2 broken ribs in the middle of the game. Played a whole half, never told anybody.
I can't even watch TV with 2 broken ribs.
Elbow, that year he got hit on the elbow, and he was taking 400 cc's of fluid off his elbow every game. His arm was purple for a season. When EJ played with a separated left shoulder and a broken left leg, and we beat Notre Dame. Even though people wonder why Jameis's weight went up, he had a high ankle sprain, never missed anything for a whole year. He couldn't condition, he couldn't run, he couldn't do things. I mean, it's a trait that if that guy is not tough and competitive. Now, to say that, okay, I'm the next one, you got to go do it. And he stood in there and took shots, and you gain respect. They're either going to play for you or they're not. And they know you're going to do your job. It makes them play that much harder. And on not just offense, but on defense, say, you know something? And then he takes us on the game-winning drives he took us on. Let me get the ball back for that guy one more time. If the defense doesn't feel like you're going to go win it, hey, what the heck? It ain't going to happen.
You know, you mentioned the Notre Dame game, the one that was played in Orlando where EJ played hurt. But let's shift to the offensive line there. That was a young group. I think you had a 16-year-old out there.
Bobby Hart.
Bobby Hart playing, yeah. But at the end of that year, it kind of transitioned into what was to become. We're looking at this offensive line now with 4 of the guys that played a year ago. Might we see a similar jump in their level of play?
I hope so. I think they are. I think we're playing much better in the inside 3 right now. I think the tackles have done a much better job. I think we're understanding chip protection, how we're sliding to getting the backs involved so much more even when they're out. And I think learning to protect as a team better. And I think just knowledge. And people don't realize, offensive line, you get 4 guys and one of them gets on a different level. Or what I'm saying, when depth, all the same. It's like a dam. Once the water starts seeping, it just rushes through. And, understanding how to play together and the knowledge of that. Also, how he sets protections. For instance, Taco Charlton that time hit him he declared it wrong. That wasn't nobody's wrong. He declared the front wrong. I mean, and him understanding where all the dangers are, which he very rarely ever misses, but occasionally he does. And this year, you don't see that. You don't understand putting him in the right position, putting him in different things that go on. And this guy, and DeAndre gets it. He can play. He understands the game. He studies the game. He's tough. He's a quiet individual, which is different than a lot of quarterbacks, but that doesn't matter. Do they respect him or will they play for him?
How much work did you have to do to get Jacquez to understand that he doesn't have to be the next Dalvin Cook, that he can be a different style running back and work?
I think that's any athlete's greatest strength is understand who he is. And I think, cause it's not who we want to be, it's who we are and what we can do. And I think it has been a transition because, see, when he was a big guy, a lot of times it's like this. Now it's like 7-foot basketball guys where they don't have to play the back. Well, I can shoot jumpers.
Right.
And I'm a 235-pound guy, but I can make you miss. You know what I'm saying? All right, that's good, but it's a lot easier to make you miss if I run over you twice. Then he'll anchor down, and then I'll know when to make him miss. But I mean, you got to learn to use your traits, and I think he has to learn that. You know what I mean? But I think he's getting much better at that.
And there's a slew of talent behind him. Talk about the young backs that have come in, and obviously such hype. You're always careful to warn people about hype players having to play as freshmen, but Cam Akers came in, and Amir Rasul comes back, and obviously the influx of the young guys.
It does, but it's just who can process and understand, all right, they can play, or they're going to play at the championship level. So here's the thing, fans, well, I want to see him. Well, when he doesn't play at the championship level, you ain't going to like him very well. Yep. And so you can ruin a player before you make a player early. Because if he doesn't get to success, all of a sudden he's getting blasted, he's getting that. Guys, do not think that doesn't have an effect. And it is a huge effect because a lot of these kids, their self-being is based off what people say about them on social media. And we don't believe that, that's a fact. What we say about them on the talk show radio, what we say about them in print, it's all in the world we're in. But that young group behind them is talented. I'm anxious to see now that we kind of really got to grasp these first 2 weeks. They've got a pretty good understanding. I'm really anxious to see that now the next 3 weeks, how they take that and push it, and not just run good. Okay, how I run on 3rd and 1 to how that play's called on 3rd and 8, or the pass play, or it's a 1st and 10 down. How much different I gotta, from a thought process, how I run it different. You know what I'm saying? And what I'm trying to accomplish. And I think that's where it's going to be interesting to see the guys that can make the jump.
That factor you were just talking about, where you don't want to ruin a young guy by playing him too early. Has the whole social media aspect of it changed your decision-making process on when you put a guy in?
No, but I've always believed that. I've always felt that way. Because let me tell you something. The greatest thing an athlete can have is confidence. I don't care anything else he got. If he doesn't have confidence he can do the job, he can be the most talented guy in the world. He won't play well. He won't play consistent. You got to make sure that they have success early in their careers to be able to be confident, to be able to play. If they don't, and I'm going to tell you what, lose it, you say, well, he'll get it back. I wish it was that easy.
Speaking of confident guys who had success very early in their careers, Derwin James is back after missing most of last season with a knee injury. What did he kind of learn being out, and what does he bring back to the defense?
Well, I think he learned two things. How fragile playing is, how quick it can happen. Because, the guy he just hit a guy. He didn't get cut. Nobody fell on his legs. He hit a guy, and all of a sudden his knee. How fragile that is, how your body, also how quickly it can be taken away. But 2, I think he realized when he stepped back, he understands how I am, why I am, why Charlie is, how he is. In other words, how he can step back and watch 8 guys do it right, 9 guys do it right, and one little thing, the gates are open. And appreciation of why a coach is so disciplined and so strong that when you sit back and you see the whole big picture and you're out there playing, well, he's just being tough on me, and not really realizing how little minute things, from being an inside leverage to outside leverage, how it gives up a play and destroys what the other 9 guys have done, how 2 guys in the same gap on a blitz, how not setting your stun up or disguising your. I think he really, and because he's also capable of understanding that. A lot of guys can't because they don't understand the big picture, and that's nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. The guys are great, still be great players, but he had that capability, and I think he grasped that. And I think it's made him a much better leader, and even to the offensive players, to how I'm on them and how I'm on the defense, and why well, coach, we just made a good play. Yeah, but you made it because the offense screwed it up, and why? And not because they made it. Let's do it when they do it right, or vice versa. You know what I'm saying? I think he's got a coach's mentality to it, and he can comprehend that. And it's really, you watch him in his leadership. And I'll catch him out of the corner of my eye a lot of times. I've been on somebody, and this is why. He's going by and saying, look, this is what he's doing. He did it to me. This is what he's trying to get you to grasp. You know what I'm saying? And I think from that standpoint, it's been fun to watch.
I'm interested, Coach, because you just talked about it a moment ago. Sometimes players think, Coach is just getting on me, and it's attention to detail. I remember something you said after the Orange Bowl, Florida State's win over Northern Illinois. You were asked a question about Mark Stoops going on to take the Kentucky job, and you said about what it is to be a head coach. You have no idea until you sit in that seat. And I remember when you said that. As you get set to play Alabama, the whole country listening to this, wondering about that game and marquee matchup. I know in a coach's mind it's one game. What have you learned and about that leadership role for you as a head coach? And since that day that you said that and talked about what it means to be a head coach and the transition, how difficult it is. And also, I guess, 2-part question, Coach, because you coach with Nick Saban. Everybody loves to talk about that. And is there something you've learned that you thought at the time, I don't know why he does that, but now you know?
Oh, a multitude of things. And understand why he was on every detail, because every part of your organization, even what the janitor thinks, to what the AD thinks, to what the support staff thinks, to what it's got to be of the same culture and the same mindset. Because if it's just everybody does their job, who cares? How does that relate to the team? How does that relate to the whole organization? You want to talk about culture and organization. That's what that is, that everybody in here understands what we're trying to accomplish as an organization, to set a mindset, and why he was so picky on everybody that ever touched his program and how it went. From media access to, where a player is to, and then also the strength to say, I don't care what they say. I'll take the bullets. I got to, whether it's coaches, whether it's players, whether it's administration, why he understand and set up, because at the end of the day, it's about the culture of the organization, sending one message, one heartbeat, one thing. And then how you treat the players from the training room to the cafeteria to how what's cooked for them, the meals are cooked for them, how everything in it has to be A to Z. And the multitude of responsibility you have as a head coach to this whole building. To hundreds of people, that your life is on the decisions I make, the responsibility that goes with that. And They're tough. They're hard, whether media likes them, whether the family likes them, whether you like them at the time. And also the addressing of if a guy's not doing his job, like it's funny. Coaches are considered hard because they get on assistant coaches. But if players on the field doesn't do it, we get on him. Well, one thing I always appreciate that because I'm working hard. I want all the coaches with me working hard. I want the guys in the administration who are cleaning the building. I want the guys who are building the new facility. I want the guys who they all have to have a mindset of I want to be the best. If you don't, it all trickles down in. They see it. Kids are so observant. You're little kids. It's amazing what you think. Well, he got me. You don't even realize he's picked up your habits when you're at home. All the good, bad, whatever you are. And I think that's what's engulfed me and the entire picture, what's physical, psychological, just facility. But it's a mentality of one organization. That's hard to do when you're managed because everyone wants their own glory. And we're in the self-set, not just players. I'm talking about everybody. Everybody don't want to do anything, but they want to be at the game. You know what I mean? They want all, but there's a responsibility that goes back because it's one thing. What develops the players? I think all that, it does develop the players. That's why I want a facility. That's why I want things done. You have to incorporate that culture of greatness. And it's not just, well, he's got good players, he can win. What's that mean? Florida State's always had good players. They've won, but they ain't always won at a high level. Alabama always had good players at Alabama, even when they didn't win championships. There's a culture that's got to be created, and it's got to be all the way through the whole organization. And I think that's what he taught me. And competing against friends. I mean, listen, me and Nick aren't. He's a competitor. I'm a competitor. It's great to go again. It's still one game, but then it's a big game. It's an important game, and you got to go on.
Thanks, Coach.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Wonder what the outrageously energizing experience of Mountain Dew Kickstart is like? Well, it's like a combo of 3 awesome things. Dew, juice, and caffeine, rebooting your entire personal operating system.
Mountain Dew Kickstart is in position for consumption. All systems cleared for launch. Initiate launch sequence. T-minus 3, 2, 1, mark. Release the Mountain Dew Kickstart. Mountain Dew Kickstart released. Experiencing a charge of Mountain Dew Kickstart now.
Mountain Dew Kickstart operation successful.
You are now off the couch and out exploring the world.
Roger that. Get charged up for what's coming next anytime, anywhere with Mountain Dew Kickstart. Available in 10 energizing flavors like mango lime, raspberry citrus, midnight grape, and orange citrus. Mountain Dew Kickstart. Fuel with flavor.
Every Friday, RCD Shell is giving you more bubbles for your buck. 1 liter Mountain Dew products are only 89 cents. When the temperature goes up, cool yourself down with cold, refreshing Mountain Dew and Diet Dew 1 liters for just 89 cents. RCD Shell and Mountain Dew, saving you money and keeping you refreshed.
Don't just listen to The Jeff Cameron Show. Watch it live. The Jeff Cameron Show Streamcast. Live weekdays 3 to 6 p.m. Head to ESPNTallahassee.com today to watch live or catch up on demand. The Jeff Cameron Show Streamcast. Brought to you by Nice Tire and Auto, your trusted Goodyear dealer. 574-4100. And presented by TNT Supercenter in Thomasville, Georgia. And Franklin Spring Creek Ford.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm Doug Brown. The Cubs put left-hander John Lester on the DL today with shoulder fatigue and a tight lat muscle. Lester is only 8-7 this year. He gave up 9 runs to the Reds on Thursday in less than 2 innings. Derek Jeter is hoping to become one of the new owners of the Marlins, but in the meantime, he and his wife Hannah are celebrating the birth of their first child, daughter Bella, on Thursday. One of the owners of the Nationals, Mark Lerner, tells the Washington Post he is now cancer-free, but after complications from surgery and treatment, his left leg was amputated. Lerner has been away from Nationals Park for several months. ESPN's Diana Rossini reports Panthers quarterback Cam Newton won't play in tomorrow's preseason game against the Titans. He's still recovering from shoulder surgery. And the Jaguars' starting quarterback job is now up for grabs. Blake Bortles has been the starter since his rookie year in 2014, but after last night's preseason loss to the Buccaneers, Chad Henne will now share first-team reps with Bortles.
Brought to you by JCPenney. Guys, get to JCPenney today for Levi's lowest prices of the season. Find select styles like Levi's 514 Straight Fit for $39.99 and 511 Slim Fit for $41.99. Deals like this won't last long. That's getting your pennies worth. JCPenney.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio. It's Libations Friday. Brought to you by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill on Appalachie Parkway. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
What's your weekend plans, Tom?
Well, this isn't actually an advertisement, even though it's Corner Pocket's day on Friday. But tomorrow, the 7th Hill is celebrating its first birthday. So they're doing a barbecue cook-off competition with craft beer, live music outside the 7th Hill in Corner Pocket.
Done.
So the tickets are $25, $30 a person, depending upon if you get them ahead or at the door. But it also benefits the Collegiate Veterans Association. Again, that just happened to fit into your question. That was not a canned advertisement. But that's legitimately what I'm doing tomorrow.
What are you doing tonight? Watching more preseason football, perhaps?
To be honest, going out, grabbing a nice dinner, and then playing Halo. There it is. That's a 1-2 punch.
Little Halo night, huh?
Yeah, oh yeah.
All right. Well, I'll be headed down for what seems incredible, and that is my brother's 50th birthday, which, given that I used to use his driver's license for my fake ID, hardly seems possible.
What's the statute of limitations on that?
Oh, yeah. No, I used lots of fake IDs. I made one, used other people's, all kinds of crimes being committed. But that was, listen, the 80s especially, boy, fake IDs were big. And it was very rudimentary. You could just go in there yourself and lift off the cover there and change the numbers, which is highly illegal. And
oh, God, yeah.
They get you in big trouble.
That's a felony if they want to really press you on
it, right?
If
they do, yeah. You'd have to be an a-hole to really press a kid on that. But, yeah, sure. Especially if you're just using it to buy a six-packer to go into a bar and not commit like a federal crime or something, But, sure, it's
boy, that's gutsy if you want to go buy a six-pack with a fake, too.
Yeah,
these
in a store. You can't do it at all these days, right? I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been in college, but I don't think anybody tries anymore, do they?
Word on the street when I was an undergrad, just the word on the street was if you went to a certain supermarket, they had police officers there. So
you're getting snatched up right there.
Oh, man. They just had police officers in the supermarket, so you didn't even try.
Very casual in the 80s and early 90s. There was people weren't flipping out over stuff like that.
The simple policy was you found somebody who was older. That's it.
That's the way you did it.
You befriended older people.
But that didn't get you into a bar. So what did you do? Did you?
Okay.
How'd that work?
So there were two particular bars.
Bullwinkle's they were hard asses, right?
Okay, so yeah, because it's actually a positive pub for them. Bullwinkle's and Port Paul's were legendary. legendary.
Yeah, you couldn't get in, right?
I know of one person who got in, and I think they'd be mad that I know that one person got in.
They'd be furious, yeah.
Yeah, it was her older sister, and they looked very much alike. And they thought it was her, so they were asking her questions from the old days.
Which is funny, all right,
it was pretty funny. But they'll confiscate your ID, the whole nine. I mean, you have no chance, and they'll call the cops. So, yeah, you don't mess with those two places.
Well, and I think anymore, I don't know, but I don't think that that's a thing that happens nearly as often as it did. Everybody was in on the secret. It didn't matter. Good kid, bad kid, criminal, law-abiding. Everybody had a fake ID back in the early 90s and late 80s. They just all did. It was everything. It's what you did. And but they were so crude. Like, you look at it, I bet if I could see the one I had, the makeshift one, I think, well, who in the world at the door looked at this and said, come on in? It's crazy. Like, the numbers are crooked. They clearly look cut. It's absurd. My brother's a stepbrother. He's not blood related. I don't look anything like him.
Mm-hmm.
And I used his ID.
Yeah, his photo?
Yeah, on St. Pete Beach. All the time I'd go into places with this ID. And that's why him turning 50 makes me feel he's 4 years older than me. Makes me feel incredibly old, though, because, yeah, I was using his ID when I was 18 and he was 22.
I never did such a thing, but if I
Never.
ever did, there is a person's ID that I would have used, and,
You had a friend that looked somewhat like you?
Oh, really? You know him. And
right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't look that much like him.
No.
No.
And
but he had more hair then, so maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
because he's fading a little.
Even though that's true,
he doesn't want to hear it.
He doesn't want to hear it. He's graying and fading.
He's fading fast.
He's grading.
I wanted to give him a hug the last time he was here. I was about to say, brother, it's over. The dream is over.
Well, and he's dad now.
Yeah,
and,
you're like an hour away from being me.
But he had a mop, and I would have used that ID if I ever did, but I didn't. Anyway, I still have the idea I would have used, and it's pretty ridiculous. I'll bring it in.
Yeah,
you'll
I'd like
laugh
to see
your
it. I'd like to see
ass
it. Sure, I'd like to see it. So anyhow, the Jimbo Fisher interview, that was fun, and getting to hear him talk. You know, one thing you realize listening to that, and I realized again being over there, when you sit across from him and he starts in on one of the longer diatribes, and a diatribe is probably a negative way of classifying something, but when he goes on one of his spiels about either what he learned, like he did just there from Nick Saban, or just football in general, or kids today, or whatever, you are reminded of a real passion, and it's a good thing because, listen, he's now in his 50s, and that's a hard job. It's a time-consuming, all-consuming, I should say, job. It would be very easy, I think, to be overwhelmed and exhausted at all times. Even when he looks tired, he is locked in. He's still moved, and he's still excited by teaching, coaching, competition. That comes across, I think, even in that interview.
Yeah, the true willpower is, placed at the feet of the players who day in and day out in the middle of camp are hustling their asses off. But at the same time, if you can put that away for a moment, and the fact that Jimbo makes whatever it is right now, $5 million,
yeah,
$7
more
million,
than $5 million,
whatever.
yeah.
Okay. He does have immense willpower. I mean, it's crazy. And when he's talking about all the people in the building, that he knows that every decision he makes affects hundreds of people every day. And you might say that that's, a bit of a power trip, but it's also the reality. So, to carry that mantle and understand that everything you do is going to affect that many people, and then if you don't win enough football games, you're affecting that many more people into the thousands or hundreds of thousands when you look at fans. It's just, yeah, man, it's he fights through his day-to-day process and doesn't think about that too much, but you could tell it takes immense willpower to be able to handle all of that pressure and still focus on task 1, task 2, task 3 every day.
He looked right at me when he said, if I don't coach well and we lose games, you're going to rip me. And he was talking about radio announcers, quote unquote, broadcasters and the like. But he didn't do it meanly. He did it in a different way, a way of a man that accepts the role of my job and his. That's refreshing because that's not always the case, and it always hasn't been the case with him.
He's just saying that because there was a national media writer there.
Maybe. No, you might be right. I don't know. I don't want to, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not going all in on that. I mean, maybe, had I just been sitting there and it was just he and I, like it is on Sundays, he might have had more to say about that. I don't know. So we'll see. But it does seem, truthfully, like he gets that part of it. He has more disdain for message board stuff, more disdain for the social media aspect.
It's the anonymity that he hates.
He hates that. He can handle me or anybody else in the business whose name is underneath the title or whatever, or on the show, because he knows right where to find me. Because I'm not hiding. It's the Jeff Cameron Show. He can call me.
You want to go to War Chant? It's all great and fine and whatever. But you got a username?
Yeah.
A username.
Oh, he hates that. He hates it. Yeah. And well, I mean, it's what we all hate about social media is that everybody's brave behind a keyboard there.
My username is Coward Pizza.
Yeah.
42.
But he one thing I'll say, though, again, just because you make a lot of money doesn't make your day any easier if it's filled with 20 hours worth of work. And so I think about this all the time when in my head I go, well, he makes over $5 million a year. I mean, a little easier to show up for work. Not really. Not really. It's your off season, the little time that you get to maybe utilize all of that money and go on some big time vacation is better than the average Joe's vacation, because you could afford to fly a Lear jet somewhere and be there in 5 hours less than it took them to get there, and you stay at a private whatever. But the day-to-day, getting up at 4 a.m., driving into work, getting your coffee, working from that time until the time you get home at 11 o'clock at night, $5 million doesn't make that easier or provide you with passion.
Oh, hello there, 16-year-old. Yes, sir.
Right.
No, I was actually waiting to talk to you. I'm glad you called.
Right.
No, I'm just having dinner with my kids right now. Don't worry. No. Let's talk.
No, by all means.
About how good you are at what you do.
And you can't look at it that way, the way you and I would look at it, because that's exactly the way we look at it. You can't. You have to be, or at least be able to express a genuine excitement for that phone call to come in.
Oh, that catch you had in that 7-on-7, I've been thinking about it since you made that catch. That's unbelievable,
and
young
can
man.
you imagine? Can you imagine having to do that? But here's the deal. Here's the deal with that. It makes your skin crawl and mine too. But I actually think that the best recruiters do get excited about those calls and do not look at it the way we're talking about it and the way we feel about it. You couldn't, because it would be disingenuous, and the kids would pick up on that. And one of his greatest attributes as a recruiter is that they feel like he's honest, and he'll tell them the truth, good and bad, and he'll lay out a plan for them. And so, that's the part that would keep me from being able to do it, that and the immense acumen that he has for it. I mean, it's just, that would be tough. And I guess the bottom line is, in talking to him the other day, and you can hear it there, that passion's not waning. That energy's not lacking. Good, because the second it is for any coach, they're done. They're done. And I imagine, to some extent, I was thinking about this too, that had to have been what left Bob Stoops. If there's no scandal that we don't know about, and it really was just in June, he just went, that's it, he must not have been able to muster that, right?
And it could have just been the surroundings, because he might coach again somewhere else, but he might just have gotten done
burned
with
out.
Well, yeah, the monotony. It's mundane. It's repetitive. You know what I mean?
All the time, yeah. I think he's done. I think he's completely done. Unless there's some scandal coming down the pike we don't know about.
McElwain gets fired in the near term. That'll be a name
and
that
they
pops
call
up.
him. You're right, yeah. Good work out of you. Good work, Matthew. Thanks to all of you who called and or listened. Surely appreciate it, guys. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you.